And action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. And today we have 4 films on the docket. We're going to be talking about The Little Mermaid, Disney's The Little Mermaid, the live action version, of course, not the 90 version, of course. We're not going to talk about that today.
Right.
The second film we're going to talk about is Kandahar, starring Gerard Butler,
who I've been compared to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously.
Our third film, we'll be discussing About My Father, starring Sebastian Maniscalco and Robert DeNiro.
Right.
And fourth film we're going to talk about is The Machine, which stars Bert Kreischer and Mark Hamill. So with that, Pete, we'll get into our number one film of the week, which is Little Mermaid. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, The Little Mermaid. This is another attempt from Disney to take a existing story and change it from the animated world and put it into the live action setting. And it follows suit with what we've seen so far. I think that there's a lot of positive takeaways from this film. I think that, for example, my kids are going to love this version. I think visually it's stunning. I think that Ariel is incredible. I think her voice is next level, amazing. I could nitpick this thing to death. However, I will say that it is a great family watch, and you will enjoy yourselves because of this experience with your children. Now, if I were to scrutinize this, I would say that it didn't really add anything to the original story. It really didn't try to make itself different from the original story. And dare I say, a carbon copy of sort of what we've seen from the original. I don't think it did anything significant to this story that makes it amazing. I think it's very good.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the original in a while. I do remember having fondly liking the original, but again, you're talking 12-year-old, 13-year-old Paul versus adult Paul. I have not seen the original, although I literally was just watching it right now, but I've been watching it after I saw this new version. But I came in slightly pessimistic only because I did not like Beauty and the Beast. I did not like the Lion King remakes. I enjoyed Aladdin. I thought Aladdin was solid.
Aladdin was solid.
Yeah, Mulan, I've liked what I've seen so far, but Mulan, I actually a lot better than the original because I wasn't a big fan of the original. And I really liked Little Mermaid, again, from my recollection of growing up. So I was curious to see Paul watching it without rewatching it. Would I just enjoy the movie? Can I just go in there and enjoy it? And right from the get-go, like you were talking about, it is much more visual than the original. Like the original is very 2D animation, and so you're talking, a 90s film that looks just like the 50s cartoons, right? Because there wasn't much advancement when it came there. And so right away, this one, almost like in an Aquaman-ish, because the Aquaman is probably the other comp when it comes to underwater photography, right? Or big quotes on that. And so it took me a minute to get used to the look of it. But once I got into the look of it, I could appreciate why it looked. And then I just got kind of into the story. And I thought overall the story was solid. I guess the original is very good itself. And I didn't think they needed to do much. But overall, I enjoyed it.
But that's the point. That's the point about the original versus this one, is that yes, it was done in traditional 2D animation, just like they did in the 50s, because Toy Story hadn't yet been released, right? It was still in the works. So that was really all they could do. But the strength of that original movie was the story and the themes behind it, and the messages that it was sending to all of us as kids and even the adults who were watching it. And my only critique of this is that they took a story that existed and they added visuals that, yes, they couldn't do in 2D animation back in the day. They added those, which is very nice. But I'd seen it before. It would
Yeah.
be like if they just remade Star Wars today in today's technology, but changed the characters and kept the story the same. It would be like, gee, that was nice, but I mean, did we really need to see it?
Yeah, I guess you're pretty much talking about the special edition, right? The special edition was pretty much exactly what you're talking about, which was a facelift
Right.
on the original. And by the way, I did enjoy that because the original was very good. It needed a facelift. So, almost, beating down your
This
point.
isn't this isn't as bad as, just replacing guns with walkie-talkies in the
Yeah.
ET remake, right? It's not
Yeah.
that bad,
Yeah.
but it's the same movie. It's yay. I
Yeah,
saw Little Mermaid again.
I don't think your opinion's going to be that uncommon. This did get a 7 an IMDb. The box office, I don't know the cinema score off the top of my head, but I know it's not gotten bad reviews. I think for the most part,
But
people
it's
enjoyed
doing
it,
well.
and it's doing
So,
well. I think it's already made its money back.
but
So,
we knew this going into it. We knew that
yeah,
it had the family audience. We knew that
yeah.
this was going to be a big movie. Um, but
And I would slot it in right again. Like I think the biggest difference between this and Aladdin obviously made such a big, like they had to replace Robin Williams, who was an absolute superstar. That's not an easy thing to do. And Will Smith had a different take on it, and I thought he did solid. But again, it's hard to compete against the original Robin Williams. That is a much different film than this one. This one, you're not. There's no one that they have to really compete with except for maybe the original Ariel. And I do think, give props where props is due. This Ariel did a really nice job. Her voice was excellent. I even thought her look worked too, with kind of like the red hair. And again, her singing voice was just absolutely incredible. She did a good job. And the rest of Eric, I thought, was a solid actor.
except for the original song that he did.
Yeah. Uh, Pete, do you want to give us a little preview of the
Yeah.
original song?
I'm on the rocks and I'm looking at the sea. And is Ariel there? No, she's not there. So I'm going to start singing some more and just talk about what I'm doing and sing it at the same time.
Yeah, there's definitely that song could have definitely been eliminated.
It
Yeah,
was it was it was Glee and it was horrible.
the one critique is the original is an hour and 23 minutes. This was 2 hours and 15 minutes. I don't think you needed 2 hours and 15 minutes of this film. There wasn't that much added on the story that made this so incredible. So you want to talk about story? The one thing I did think about, and I thought there was about that then while I was watching it, was Ursula. I think Ursula, she's of course your villain, but she actually is not in the movie a ton, right? And I thought this is where you can really upgrade from the original, because even in the original, Ursula is not the greatest villain, really, if you want to break down pure story. What does Ariel want? What is her needs? What is her desire? Her need is to become independent. Her desire is to become human and want a man. She wants a man's love. I guess her need is to become human, or independence. You can argue
Yeah,
both.
being human is more of a vessel of becoming independent, which is
Yeah.
what her ultimate desire is, right?
Yeah. So I think if I'm creating my villain, which is Ursula, if she, you want to restrict independence and really break down the human relationship with that. I don't think they really pushed that further enough. They kind of made Ursula's desire was to really just to get Ariel, and they didn't really give a good reason why she wanted Ariel so much. They mentioned that Eric's her brother and she kind of was tarnished, but she didn't really want the crown. She never seeked that or seeked why she wanted the crown. So again, we can nitpick all that. I think that's my biggest issue, is really what her desires were, because again, your antagonist should want the same thing that your protagonist wants, just in a different way. That's ideally how you create, a top.
Yeah.
So that'd be my
And
big.
as of last weekend, 95 million total gross right now. And in comparison,
Yeah, 200 though, 200 worldwide.
Right, but Guardians to date is 300 million. So it's already a third of the way from what Guardians made. But does it have the legs, dare I say, the fins to
There you go, Pete.
make it
Nice.
to that 300 million? Thank you.
Uh that's gonna be tough. I would say it can make 250, maybe 200, but usually you
I'd
can.
be surprised. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of movies coming out too, so that's gonna be tough. You got Indiana Jones and other films
But
still.
Spider-Verse is gonna make things disappear from box offices next weekend.
And I've already seen it as of this recording, so I have spoiler alerts, but I obviously won't say anything. So we'll save that for our next podcast. All right, well, let's move on. So I think audience, you have a good idea of what to expect and maybe what to see, depending on how you feel. So
Right.
next film is Kandahar, starring Gerard Butler, and this is just a kind of a classic military CIA film. Gerard Butler's a CIA operative, field agent, but he's one of those field agents that's got kind of like the military background. And then his identity gets blown, and now he's got to get out of and make it to Kandahar in order to survive. And this is just again what Gerard Butler does very well, which is just these very solid action films, thrilling,
Pure adrenaline.
adrenaline. Yeah, this is very good. Again, uh, the obviously I think the easy comp is the Covenant, and I would say the Covenant is a better film, but this is right there with it. I enjoyed this a lot. I would definitely want to see it again. But this is up my alley. These are the type of films I really enjoy, and that it doesn't take a lot for me to get to the theater to go see this. And so I loved it.
Yeah.
I watch again. I'll go watch it. Someone's like, "Hey, let's go watch Kandahar," and I'll be like, "All right, let's do it."
Let's go.
Yeah. So Gerard
You
Butler.
know, I agree. Like this is one of those settings and premises where it's right up my alley as well. Um, and I did, in full disclosure, I went to go see this film, and it was the end of a really long day, and I was exhausted and fell asleep. But I got to tell you, those first 30 minutes, I got to the point where he's about to look. We got to go. Right, like everything's been blown. We got to go, and now he's about to begin his journey to Kandahar. And I
Oh, no.
was,
Okay.
I was already just like, this is
Let's go.
amazing. And Gerard Butler just, I mean, he just crushes. Like these kind of roles are like he just crushes these roles. So I am looking forward to seeing this again for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, I don't want to get too much into the nitpicky aspect, but what I did love about this is they kind of create the three-pronged attack, if you will. So you have your protagonist, you have like one antagonist, but then you have another antagonist that doesn't have the same needs and wants, and so they're all three kind of he has the same mission as this one, but different. And so so you have a lot of like cross attacking stuff like that.
Right.
I always love. I think that's always a great component especially when you're talking like an action film, when you can add that third, group of people or antagonist. It always works very well. Again, on the writing super level, there's one thing I would have done that I think would have made the stakes higher. And I could have added another like cutaway sequence. You know how like in Star Wars, how they have like the second mission, which is, Han's going to destroy the shield generator. You have the fighters fighting the Death Star. Then you have Luke there. They kind of set that up, but they didn't really pan out on one of them. And I would have loved to see some sort of action on that one that would have just really elevated this thing to like
Right.
the best. So that would have been my only critique. Again, who are
But
we?
still good nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm just a guy behind a camera. But
Right.
if you guys ever want to call us
Just
to script help, let us know, because we would pretty much crush it for you. If you're into extra money, you're into making a couple extra million.
Right. But there's also something about Gerard Butler's movies of this kind where it's not just I'm going to go and just fire off bullets. Like there's some
No,
real
for sure.
intellectual thought, there's a lot of tension and suspense that kind of takes you through even just the beginning of a film, right? And it gets you into a place where you're like, it's now or never, let's go. And then you actually
Yeah,
start the movie. So you've already gone through, in essence, I felt like I've already gone through a journey with this movie and I haven't even seen more than
100%.
a third of it, right? So I have
100%.
something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, check that out. Next film we have is About My Father, starring Sebastian Maniscalco and Robert De Niro. Leslie Bibb is in this one. Kim Cattrall, uh, our boy, is it Robert Rash? No, 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 David Rash. Excuse me, David
Mhm.
Rash from Sledgehammer back in the day. Pete, remember him?
Yeah,
Love that guy.
yeah.
Uh,
He's in Succession as well.
Yes, yes, he is. So this film, this is a comedy. I don't think this film's going to be for everybody.
Can real quickly, can I talk about Succession instead, about the final episode, or not
Yeah,
this episode?
yeah.
No? Okay, go ahead.
So I already released a small video, and ultimately I enjoyed this film. I laughed a lot. Um, Nicole and I both laughed a lot while watching this one. We had a good time. Now, with that being said, I understand some people will not enjoy Sebastian Maniscalco, his humor, and or like the Italian American shtick. Totally get that. That's on you to figure out whether or not you can even stomach that. But I equated this film and had similar vibes. Um, Obviously not to the same extent, but Wedding Crashers. I had a very similar vibe. It's about you know two people that go to a ritzier location, and it's kind of all exclusive, and they have to adapt, and that's where a lot of the antics happen. And I think what makes this film work is not so much Robert De Niro and Sebastian Maniscalco, although they were solid, have a couple funny scenes together, but it's really Leslie Bibb and her family are really quirky
The
and
secondary characters.
yeah, really make you laugh. I'll tell you what, Kim Cattrall is awesome in this one. I didn't know she was in it at first, but then as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, that's Kim Cattrall, and then she was really just funny, really funny in this one.
Wow. Right.
Probably for me, her best role, only because I saw a different side to her than I've not really seen, and she really kind of like let loose. She plays a senator, and just she does a great job. And they do some funny cutaways and talking points. They really make fun of kind of like the elite white people, right? And the brothers, both the brothers, one of his Anders home, absolutely hilarious. He's it's supposed to be kind of like the next line in Succession, but this guy is just, he's almost like your George Bush, like used to party hard in college and just kind of lacks discipline, and but always has a good time in his adventures. Uh,
Somehow becomes a president.
yeah, Anders Holm is kind of a similar character to that. And they have the other brother who would definitely be similar to the Wedding Crashers brother, where he's just this holistic, like
Awkward.
awkward, yeah.
Right.
But he's funny too, and again, all these guys together, they have just good scenes. They work well with De Niro and Sebastian, and I think overall,
Right.
and again, I was very trepid going in this one because sometimes actors with their comedy, it works on the comedic stage, doesn't always work on film because of a lack of a story. But I thought this worked, and yeah, overall, I just thought it worked. So I think you should go see it. Use hopefully my information I'm giving
Right.
judgment on whether or not you think it's
Right. And that's the real danger, right? In putting out a movie like this. Like you can have the star power around you. However, if you're taking a very specialized stand-up routine, in essence,
yeah.
um, and making that into a feature film, I mean, that's something that is really, really difficult to sort of accomplish. And I appreciate your thoughts on movies, and I usually agree with you. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually see this film before I make any sort of
Yeah.
yes, this is good or this is bad. I have my fears, not my doubts. I'm
Sure.
I'm I'm fearful of this movie. I'll
Well,
be honest.
I had it going in to be again full. I did not expect to laugh this much in this film. I thought this was going to be a very average film, but I think it was indeed above average. And again, I think what makes this film and always a key to comedy is the side characters, because if it's just if you're asking one guy to carry an entire film and the story is just okay, or whatever, then it's difficult. Like again, Wedding Crashers, obviously Vince Vaughn crushes that, and Owen Wilson, and they have a good job, and them alone make the film solid. But it's all those other characters, even Isla Fisher's character, obviously Rachel
Who's
McAdams.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah, Rachel McAdams wasn't a comedic
yeah.
addition to that film, but she was an important part of that film. But yeah.
Grandma in that film, the
Mhm.
mother, like all these little characters add up to really make the film a powerhouse. Anchorman, same thing, right? It's not just about Ron Burgundy, because
And
that
Step Brothers, right?
the
Like
same way, yeah.
you can't have one without the other. You can't.
Rob
It's not gonna be.
Riggle, yeah, Rob Riggle, Adam Scott, Catherine Hahn, like again, all these other people just really they fill in the gaps and elevate the entire film. And I think this film, Leslie Bibb and her family do exactly that and really elevate this film from what could have been a very lukewarm, which is the worst thing you can have, a comedy, to really, I think, a funny
Oh
comedy.
man, that's death. If it's lukewarm and this is your first attempt at a film,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah, I
That's
think
it.
again, I think Happy Easter kind of fell into that, right? Like, or is that what it's called? Easter
Yeah,
Easter Sunday.
yeah. Easter Sunday. That was
It has
that
funny
was tough.
moments. It's funny moments. I like
Yeah.
Joe Coy, but again, like I don't think the supporting characters were
There were some real shining moments with those supporting characters in that film. But I don't know. Holistically, it
mesh.
just didn't gel.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. I mean, you could have pieces in place. It's like that great Lakers team with Malone and
Yeah.
everybody. You could have all the pieces there, but if there's not that sort of if it doesn't gel, it could be a disaster. Not that Easter Sunday was a disaster. It just wasn't well thought out, and it felt rushed. But
It was clunky.
I,
It was clunky.
it was clunky. But I look forward to getting to the 4th of July weekend with the family in this movie, in order to really kind of assess and squash some of the fears that I have of this, because he is a funny guy and he's a talented guy and he's a success for a reason. So you want this to work,
Yeah.
right? In the same way that you wanted Seinfeld to succeed at a TV show when he finally got his opportunity, right? Like he was
Yeah.
doing his stand up on screen, right? So you could do it really well, but he was also surrounded by three other amazing characters. So we'll see. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry. Like I'm so ill prepared for this podcast. However, I still have great thoughts. Just saying.
This is true. This is all true. Okay.
What
Uh
other movie did I not watch this week, Paul?
yeah, I mean, look, talk about a guy coming through and doing all of his homework for one weekend. Next we have The Machine, also
Mm.
starring another comedian, Bert Kreischer. And again, this one now I saw a little bit of the trailer, so I was a little more enthused about this one. And
I
if
like
we look more,
machines.
yeah. So this one, so last podcast, I think I said this was a semi-autobiographical movie. Not at all. This I don't know
As
where,
much as the Weird Al documentary movie was a
yeah,
a
yeah,
representation
exactly.
of his real life.
I don't know where I got that from, but this was this this is just a story. Now, I guess it's somewhat kind of loosely based off a story, but definitely that would be the similar comp where it's like you take one thing that kind of happened to him and then run with it way off. And that's what this was. So but the premise is pretty solid. It's basically about a stand-up comedian that pisses off like some Eastern Europeans, or he steals something when he's like super drunk, and he's like this legend when he drinks. And so he totally fit in this. He was in a comedy show in like Russia, and gets super hammered, and like everybody falls in love with him. But then in his hammeredness, he steals He steals like something super important.
I'm already laughing. I mean, that's a funny
So
premise.
it's pretty good. And then ultimately it's got character too, because ultimately it's like, wow, drinking's his superpower. It's also like what, pulls him apart from his relationships. It's actually really good. Like the story is actually pretty solid when it comes to, again, one of these type of films. But ultimately, man, I enjoyed it. Mark Hamill is awesome in this. I mean, it's just great to see him in.
Which is, yeah, he doesn't do a lot of like
This is a perfect role.
other
Yeah.
movies for.
Like
I was surprised to see that he was going to be in another, especially a movie, no offense, of this caliber. Like I
yeah,
thought, so there has to be something to this movie, right?
yeah, for sure. But I think there's just a great role for him to really just play. And it's a character. So he's not himself. He's not Luke Skywalker. He's just this manifestation of a person that he can do. Again, he's a good actor, right? He's been voice acting for a long time. And so this is just a great role for him, and I think he crushed it. And Bert Kreischer absolutely crushes. But yeah, just a super funny film. It's kind of an action comedy in a way. But yeah, man, if you like Bert Kreischer, or if you just like comedies in general, again, this is more of the not screwball comedy, but just off the wall comedy, I guess, where it's slightly outrageous and ridiculous, but at the end of the day it's funny and like you go have a good time. So I recommend it. I recommend it, man. I had a good time.
Okay.
It's not too often you see two really funny comedies in the same weekend. So I surprisingly, I actually think Little Mermaid, out of all the films, was the least favorite of my films this week. And I
Right.
I don't have a bad thing to say about Little Mermaid. I think it's solid.
Right
So
now, I have to say that it was probably my favorite of the week.
yeah,
And it was the only one I was able to really see all the way through. But yeah, I'm happy to report on things,
awesome.
even if I
Well,
haven't seen it.
yeah,
That's how good I am. I don't have to see a movie and I can tell you exactly how good or bad it is.
there you go.
It's a superpower.
Well, with that, Pete, next week,
My spidey sense.
yeah, next week we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Love your segue there. We also have the Boogeyman.
yes.
Those will be the two main films. There might be some other streaming ones that come out. We will see. But those are going to be the two main ones this week. And
The
then
Boogeyman. Are you looking forward to that one? I'm a little nervous
no, not
that
necessarily.
they
It's not
took
really my genre. So.
a 4 to 10 page story and turned it into a movie. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
mm, eh, let's hope for the best.
I have seen Spider-Man. I am ready to do my review on that one. Stay tuned for that. With that, Pete, just make sure you like and subscribe. Again, if you're looking a way to go see movies, AMC Pass. We are not sponsored.
AMC Pass is the best.
Hopefully someday we will be, because no one rocks AMC more than I do.
Up to 3 movies a week.
Yeah, you can see 3 movies a week, about $25, and you can see all the good versions too. So you can see IMAX, Dolby, Surround, 3D, whatever you want. There's really no limitations except for these like re-releases.
Yeah.
So like what's it called? Like if
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi. No, I did see Return of the Jedi. No, re-release is different. It's one of these specials like Breakfast at Tiffany's. They have like a one night thing. Those are
At where? Breakfast where?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, Tiffany's. Oh, these are Timony's.
Oh no, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like one of these like older, like a one-time thing.
Right.
It was an official re-release, so I did see that with my AMC Pass. So
Also, if you want a large popcorn at regular price, bam, done.
Yeah. Same soda. You can get a large soda for regular price as well.
Regular price. I mean, you get that much more.
Yeah.
With an AMC Pass.
Yeah. And make sure you like, subscribe. We're also on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.